right, Dave, in five, four, three, two, and one.
Hey, so I guess we're here for a Ukraine update, and apparently this is a members only thing. So we will give you the inside hint. And well, it's what October 9th, and honestly, something I don't like to say in any context that might be public because it would diminish it is Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is kind of like a soap opera in the sense that with a soap opera you could legendary the legend was you could leave it for a month and come back and nothing would have changed, the plot wouldn't have really gone anywhere. And to be honest with you, where we are in Ukraine is that if things are not changing at any kind of real speed, right? We have very glacial movements. But what's going on right now that we're keeping an eye on? We have just going clockwise from the top. We have Ukraine is fighting off kind of weak counteroffensive in Kursk and Glushkova. The Ukrainians have kind of expanded their incursion into Kursk to the west, sliding over to the left and taking more area. That continues to kind of simmer. Meanwhile, up and down the front, the Russians are keeping up a steady attack. And they've been pushing on Chasiv Yar, which is is the next town over from Bakhmut. And they've been pushing on that for months now, haven't really gotten in. They've gotten to the outskirts of the city. That's a classic case of you can come back and check the map a month later and nothing really will have changed. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about Pokrovsk. And this is a city that, if they took it, would cut a lot of important logistics lines. So there would be some gain if they actually made it. But the Russian advance, which has come, this is the area from Avdiivka, right? Avdiivka was a place that Russia took or started really working on um, earlier this year. And so most of the Russian gains have been that they've taken Avdiivka and they've pushed on. Now they're going to Pokrovsk. And well, they aren't really. They reached out. They had kind of a bulge in their line, kind of a salient. Actually, it would have been that way. And they have been expanding the base to level line. They haven't been making much forward progress. I don't know if that graphic works for you, but and basically, they're probably going to culminate. And what they've been doing is, instead of having a long jutting salient, they've been expanding the base, making themselves secure. That looks like that's going to peter out. Meanwhile, all the way, if we slide down the line into Zaporizhia, there's been reports of Russian movements around Robotynya, right? If you look at it in English, it's Robotine. But Robotynya is where the Ukrainian offensive that they launched last year kind of came to a halt, right? If you recall, there was a lot of discussion, Ukraine's going to have a big offensive. And, last everyone was waiting for them to start it. They started it last June, didn't really get very far because the Russians had laid like 10, 15 million landmines. I mean, just millions of landmines. They made it, and this is from Orikhiv is their base of operations, their big logistics center. And south of that, they pushed through the line and they got to Robotynya. Now, this would have been this is the axis, right? If Ukraine wants to win the war, past Robotynya is Tokmak, and then past Tokmak is Melitopol, right? Or, yeah, Melitopol, not Melitopol. I have to get these pronunciations right. And Melitopol is a very large city. It sits right in the middle of that land bridge in Zaporizhia that the Russians got, and it's very close to a bay that kind of goes an inlet. And so it's the narrow part of the land bridge. If the Ukrainians could get to Melitopol, they would not only liberate one of the largest cities in Zaporizhia, other than Zaporizhia itself, they would also effectively cut the land bridge. That would be a major strategic gain. And they very clearly last year tried to push in that direction. Haven't done it. like I say, the landmines and the Russian fortifications kind of stopped them. And the Russians have been now pushing troops in there, and they've been starting their own what appears to be their own offensive, counteroffensive, counteroffensive, however we want to put it. They have been moving in that area. Yet, not much has been going on. There's been some fighting. Looking at ISW, right, and the Institute for the Study of War, this is where I get a lot of my information. I also get it from various social media outlets. There's one TikToker in particular, Peter Alexievich, who is an American who's living in Ukraine, and I've kind of struck up a relationship with him, and he is there reporting directly. Um, the thing is, though, ISW on a daily basis gives reports based on open source intelligence. They have people that speak Ukrainian, can follow the Telegram reports, and they every day have this update and they update the maps. And their assessment is that Russia is really pushing and increasing the tempo. They're pushing their mechanized attacks in order to gain some ground and set conditions for the muddy season, right? That we're about to get. The weather's going to change, and so they see this kind of increase in tempo, um, and they're not sure because even after they say, "All right, we're going to have this muddy season," then everyone goes, "Well, are they really going to stop for the winter, or can they do much?" And it's, to be honest, I've been watching this for a couple of years now. It's not clear. Obviously, operations are affected in the winter, but it doesn't seem like either side really stops. So, but their speculation is right now that Russia is keeping up this pressure all along the border in order to get in a better position before the season comes to an end. So, bottom line, as we're looking at Ukraine, we are seeing kind of the same deal, right? We're seeing the petering out of this major offensive. Right, for Russia, the big deal is this offensive through Avdiivka that you know hasn't really done much. If they took Pokrovsk, that would actually hurt Ukrainian logistics a bit. But it seems like they're petering out ahead of time, and they're kind of almost acknowledging that by widening rather than deepening their advance. And they're still kind of fumbling around in Kursk. Meanwhile, though, Ukraine is not, having taken a lot of land in Kursk and expanded into Glashkova, um, they aren't really expanding much either, right? And so we kind of really do have this evenly matched war, even though the two nations aren't evenly matched. It seems like we still have this kind of sameness, this stalemate. Who knows, next week or so something will happen, but because now and then we do get surprised, but this is where we are, right? Pretty much uh, still having widespread fighting, still having Ukraine trying, holding land in Russia, while Russia uh, to the south continues to push for its own agenda. We'll have to, I always say we have to wait and see, but we wait and we don't, to be honest, we don't see much new. So we can only hope to be surprised by some. So that's where we stand right now, October 9th.